Welcome to Livzenastrology, the channel for updates and reflections, where we are grounded in the stars and elevated by consciousness. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey everybody. This is a transmission after having a rest day yesterday. My body's been processing some energy. And so yesterday in meditation, I was told to just rest, recover, recuperate. So just really learning to listen to my body, to listen to those parts of me that just want to be, that's not always in the doing aspect. But, even on rest days, I'm still connected to source, right? I still made it my meditative practice to connect to the source field of energy, of everything. And so my divine assignment was to just movie watch, right? Just to rest, relax, watch some movies, raise my vibration, my frequency. And it was interesting. The two movies that came into my field yesterday were the Ghost of Girlfriends Past with Matthew McConaughey, which if you've never seen that movie, it's a great movie. And around the Christmas holidays, I like to watch holiday movies, just, tis the season and just reflecting on the energies that the movies were intended, at the time. And another movie that came into my field right after, because it was a double feature, was My Best Friend's Wedding with Julia Roberts, which ironically are both Scorpios. Okay. So this is relevant to the energy coming in. So if you follow astrology, there's some really great astrologers out there that I love to look at different astrology because they point to different things in the field that maybe I wasn't aware of or looking at. And there was this great podcast by Molly McCord, and I invite you to check her out. She's got this really awesome reflection on the new moon in Sagittarius. And she brought in the conjunction between Pallas Athena in Scorpio, conjunct Venus in Scorpio right now. So Pallas Athena in the history, in the mythology, she was the goddess of warfare. But her energy is that she didn't want to go to war. She actually wanted to prevent war through strategy, through strategizing warriors in the field, actually to prevent war, right? So the fact that she is conjunct or right next to Venus in Scorpio, it's an interesting dynamic happening. And how is this related to the movie watching yesterday? Well, it's all going to make sense here, but I just wanted to kind of share with you how I'm getting these downloads, how they're coming in, and what wants to be channeled in today is, Mercury's getting ready to go into retrograde, and astrologers say that right now it's in its shadow period. And so we know in psychology, shadows are the parts of ourselves that are unseen. They're the shadows of our lights. And with Scorpio, we know that Scorpio in mythology rules the underworld. It rules the parts of us that we don't necessarily like to look at. It rules excrement. It rules plumbing. It rules literally the places we take shits, right? It's the stuff that we don't like to look at. That's why Pluto can be kind of scary to some people because they don't like to look at their shit, right? But I think about, evolved beings like Gandhi who would make it a practice to actually look at his excrement to see how well he's digesting his food and processing his energy, right? So this is the time right now. This is what was coming in that wants to be channeled, is that with this retrograde and why we're in the shadow period before it stations to go retrograde, this is the time for all of us right now to look at our shit, to look at our relationships from the past, the ghost of relationship past, right? Just like the movie, right? He had to, and if you guys have never seen the movie, check it out. It was produced in 2009. It was a really funny, great movie with Matthew McConaughey. And so basically he was visited by three ghosts, right? So we also know that there's a numerology and a magic tied into the number 3, the Holy Trinity. And so there was no accident that he was visited by the three ghosts, the ghosts of of girlfriends past, present, and future. And so what he was able to do in this movie is reflect on how he was developed in his current relationship patterns with women. And I found it really potent. Is one of the things he said, because the whole dynamic was he lost his parents very young. So that's also Scorpio's death, right? So both his parents died in a car accident. So that was trauma. That was the initiation of him into loss, right? And so in his psyche, he started developing fear of loss and fear of connection because there's loss. So it goes into this whole dynamic about how he felt rejected by this girl he really liked. With Jennifer Gardner, she played the actress of the girlfriend that he was, trying to connect to and felt rejected by. And so he had his uncle, Michael Douglas, who was a womanizer, teach him the ways of women, right? And one of the things he taught him was, and this is relevant because it talks about power, and I know this channel, especially right now with Venus in Scorpio, we're talking about power dynamics. So one of the quotes in the movie said, the person with the most power in relationships is the one who cares less, right? So this was sort of the way his uncle was teaching him about how to be with women, how to capture women, how to, be in relationship without getting hurt. And it was the dynamic of, I'm going to be powerful by not caring. And so this was a reflection on how he was just processing pain, grief, rejection, his perceived rejection of the girl he liked. So this is all underworld Scorpio stuff, the stuff that we can't process, that we can't digest literally in our digestive system, as above, so below. And so unprocessed grief can show up in our shit, right? Can be unprocessed in our bodies and then show up in our relationships. So right now with Mercury in its shadow period in Capricorn, it's bringing structure, it's bringing honest reflection on how we have shared power dynamics in past relationships, how we have perceived past relationships through grief, through trauma. Again, none of us are exempt from having these experiences. None of us are exempt from going through these lower underworld processes because we all have excrement. We all, if we digest something, if we all eat food, for those of us who are still eating food, those breatharians out there, this may not apply to you, but for those of us that are still consuming, we have to process, digest, and then release, let go of the processed energy. Well, sometimes, especially in childhood, because we still have Chiron and Aries, we have unprocessed grief or trauma that may still be somewhere in our digestive tract, that may be somewhere in our psyches, in our bodies, through pain, right? Unprocessed pain and trauma. And so this is an opportunity right now for all of us to reflect on these lower world energies of rejection, of, how do we process death? How do we process grief? Have we processed grief? Have we processed feeling rejected in our relationships? What does that look like for you? What's being brought up to be seen right now? Because retrogrades is all about going inwards. Retrogrades happen 3 times a year, which again, there's that magic number, that holy trinity of the 3. And so this is the third time this year that Mercury will have gone retrograde to go inwards, to see these parts of us that have been unprocessed. Basically, the shitstorm of our lives that we're still housing either in our digestive tract, in our bodies, in our relationships, that we don't know how to process it, and to be able to look at it in a new way, more balanced way, because Pallas Athena, again, is an asteroid right next to Venus in Scorpio, which is bringing balance, which is bringing the energy of fairness. Can you look at your shit fairly and see, okay, where have I not been able to process trauma, grief, loss? And then because I don't have the tools, Chiron and Aries, I have the wound of not being able to process it. How am I projecting that out into my relationships currently? And whether this is transiting, and look at your house placements too. Is this happening in your job? Is this happening in your interpersonal relationships? Is this happening in your own body with your health? Is it happening in your home? How you keep your home, because that's also environmental. It's this epigenetics. It's about how you're housing the environment, which will cultivate the environment that you want to see, right? So these are just energies to look at. And also what was coming in too is, Molly McCord referenced the other astrologer, Ann Ortley, who's also one of my favorite astrologers. You can check her out too. She talked about there's this interesting energy happening with the divine feminine, because Venus is feminine, and so is Scorpio. It's considered a feminine sign. And so where also in our relationship dynamics are we processing the energy of jealousy, of envy? And she references this book called Cinderella Sisters, which talks, men and women, about the Carl Jungian dynamics of how we project or how we see the other. And when we have the experience of jealousy within us, what does that mean? And again, none of us are exempt from these experiences. None of us are exempt from feeling occasionally jealous, envious of the other. Why? Why are these feelings coming up? Why are these lower shadow aspects coming up to be seen right now? Well, through divine alchemy, and again, Pallas Athena, the asteroid, is inviting in a balanced perspective to say, well, what if instead of repressing the energy of jealousy or envy, and a lot of this, again, is learned too, right, through the behavior of the culture and through storytelling of the stories we tell, how can we alchemize it when we feel jealousy? Well, it's through the energy of acceptance of your own jealous tendencies, of your own jealous nature. And what if you can alchemize it by, when you feel jealousy or envy towards another, that you can catch it, and instead of repressing it or feel guilty, because a lot of us, if we feel jealousy or envy towards another, we immediately feel shame, right? Especially in the spiritual community that, we're all about love and light, and I just want to express love and compassion, and that's great. And we need more love and compassion, absolutely. But part of being human and the human experiences is to occasionally feel these lower, I don't want to call them lower, because lower is earth. Lower vibration is earth vibration. Slower. There's a difference between low and slow. Oh, it's 11:11. There's a difference between low and slow. So when we experience these slower vibrations, and that's when the energy is moving very slowly, meaning it's like, think about your digestive system. It's not processing. It's like slow digestion. Then that's where we can experience the frequency of these slower energies, like envy, like jealousy, like, just where we're pissed off that somebody's doing what we want to do. So this is an invitation to, I say raise your vibration, but actually speed your vibration up, speed the digestion up by acknowledging it. Oh, I'm feeling the energy of envy. I'm feeling the energy of jealousy. What can I do to alchemize it in this now moment? Go drink that lemon water, right? Bring more alkaline experience and catch it. When you feel the energy of shame, feel it, let it process through you, acknowledge it. And then what I like to do is, whenever I feel jealous or envious towards another, I think to myself, and I allow myself the thought forms of, well, maybe this being is just doing something that I really want to do, that I'm being activated into doing. It's like you see somebody doing something and immediately you have the desire, hey, I want to do that. My inner child's like, I want to play like that. I want to experience that. So because of these inversions, because of these unprocessed energies and grief, and again, Chiron and Aries, these wounds of the child maybe weren't given the skill set or even the consciousness to do so. Now as an inner adult, my own inner adult system saying, hey, instead of being jealous towards that person, why don't you let it point you to, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to experience. That's why you're feeling jealous, because you want to have that experience that you're perceiving the other having. So that's the divine alchemy that's being invited in with this retrograde, is being able to redo, restructure, re-alchemize these slower thought forms. Again, I'm differentiating between low and slow, because low is earth, right? The lowest vibration really that we're experiencing is the earth vibration, which is 7.82 hertz. So I'm just, again, even the language I'm using to talk about the experience is what's being reflected. And again, this movie watching with my best friend's wedding, this was also brought up because Julia Roberts, again, who's also a Scorpio, was going through this. And if you've never watched the movie, I highly recommend watching it because it's really cute. But what it did is it gave a new perspective on the heroine being Julia Roberts, that she was feeling jealous, that she was feeling jealous over Cameron Diaz, because Cameron Diaz was marrying her best friend, right? And who she had these repressed love feelings for 9 years, but couldn't express it because she was scared. She was scared of rejection. She was scared of love, right? So here she had this best friend who is Dermot Mulroney. Dermot, I think his name is Dermot. Yeah, that's the male actor. Anyway, when she found out that he was getting married, it activated her jealousy. And she actually went on this rampage to try to destroy the relationship. She became the quote unquote bad guy. But in the movie, it actually gave a gentle perspective of you understood why this character did what she did, because we all can relate, right? That she loved this guy and she didn't know how to express her love for 9 years. And then at the minute that this guy decides he wants to marry somebody else, that's what activated her dark shadow side that said, oh my God, I've got to sabotage this relationship because now I know what I really want, which is him. And again, these are great movies to reflect on the energies. If you haven't watched the Girlfriends of Christmas Past, or The Ghost of Girlfriends Past with Matthew McConaughey, and My Best Friend's Wedding, Julia Roberts. Again, both Scorpios who are relaying these messages of these perhaps lower underworld scorpionic frequencies that we all experience, that we all can relate to. And it's time now to up a level. It's time now to ascend our perception of jealousy, of envy, of where we are all feeling these energies activated by our relationships, by this retrograde. It's time to look at these relationships and assess honestly where you have not processed or digested these experiences of trauma, of loss, fear of loss, fear of love, fear of pain, where we, hide it in our bodies, in our minds, in our consciousness, in our emotions. So this is an invitation to really process and use divine alchemy through reflection, through integration, through going in, and maybe being quiet. It's not always about the action. Yesterday I took the whole day to alchemize and process it, and I used movies as a reflection. I had to drink a lot of water. I just, was really nurturing to myself as these emotions were coming up in a fun way, in sort of a comical way, comedy through tragedy. Shakespeare had it right, because it's tied into together. The seed of love will always have the seed of loss tied into it. That's part also of the human experience. If we are alchemizing the process of death and what death means to us and loss, these are just some of the energies that wanted to be shared, to be looked at, to be seen perhaps in a new way, through gentle reflection, through comedy, perhaps through laughing about our follies of being human, and acknowledging that we all go through this, guys. None of us are exempt. If you're a human being, if you have a consciousness and a heart and, have experienced any of these energies, these emotions, it's okay. It's part of the human experience. But you can also at this now time look at it in a different way. See this whole expression in a different way, and be more kind to yourself, have more compassion, and also have more compassion when you're witnessing the other being jealous, because you actually might be the center of somebody's jealousy, right? They might be scripting you into their storyline to be their villain so that they can process these unresolved energies within them. So, whether you're the one going through these slower emotional fields, or you're the one projecting it, being projected upon, either way, these are the dynamics of human relationships that we all can be looking at during this retrograde. And be kind and compassionate to yourself. Alchemize with your tools. I've been using essential oils. I use frankincense on my temples every day. I use there's a great essential oil called On Guard that's got clove and cinnamon and orange that again helps process, digest these undigested emotions in a more neutral, gentle way, so that it can come up and out, and this energy can be used for creation, can be used for, something else other than these self-destructive tendencies that we might all be experiencing at this time. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Everybody that's tuning in that feels the energy of this frequency, thank you so much for connecting to the channel. Check out livzenastrology for more of these updates, reflections. And if you want to see where any of these energies might be transiting in your chart, again, we have this conjunction right now with Pallas Athena and Scorpio next to Venus and Scorpio. So where is Scorpio in your chart? how are these energies coming up for you? You know, use movies as a way to alchemize, perhaps, you know, find compassion for these inner characters, these inner archetypes that are playing out within all of us. You know, even when we're being the bad guy, can you love yourself? Even when you're being the jealous one, can you love yourself? Even if you're seeing jealousy coming towards you from another, can you have compassion? And just try to, I don't know, have I don't know. Yeah, compassion is the word for the other as you're seeing these energies play themselves out. So thank you for connecting. Thank you for watching. Much love to you guys. Mwah. Thank you. Love you.